All right, welcome back to the Northridge Sports Podcast. This is your host, Mike Robinson. We're gonna get right into the podcast today. Basically, we're close to the end of the season. If you notice, I got it in this kind of view because I want to pull up the standings. Yeah. So, and I hope my cam isn't blocking this. Let me just see. It is a little bit. Uh, let's move my head to this side of the screen for now. Anyway, and maybe I could make this bigger, I guess. There we go. All right, let me close this. All right, so we're down to the end of the regular season pretty much. We're gearing up towards the playoffs. So I want to make an updated playoff prediction video. So I'm going to try to make this pod a little shorter because I've already done a prediction video earlier. Obviously, there were some changes that happened from roughly mid-season till now. Some things were very unforeseen, and I'll probably explain a little bit of some of that stuff. But I kind of want to get to the predictions pretty quick. We're gonna start in the East. So, and right now you can see the Cavaliers at the top. They're at 63 wins with 16 losses. So that's a total of 79 games. They are exactly 3 games away from ending the regular season. So I think it's safe to say, for the most part, there probably won't be any switching of positions going forward. That might be a little different in the West, only because I think it's a little tighter race with some of the positions in the West, where there may be like a game or two apart from each other. So in the course of like 3-4 maybe games at the most, there could be some moving around. But I'm gonna base my prediction off of the current standings as it is. So first thing I want to talk about in the East is the 76ers. This is a big one. I really predicted that the 76ers would make a push towards the playoffs. Even if they landed somewhere in the play-in bracket, that they would play their way into an 8th seed spot. Because that's a team that I personally believe, when fully healthy, is a lot better than where their current standings is. They just had very, very unfortunate luck this season, and I think that shouldn't really be held against them in terms of judging the success of this team. You got to look at them when they're fully healthy. And I guess the only question moving forward is, can this team be healthy? Can they go into the following season and be a healthy team? Will Embiid be able to play that like 65 game minimum in order to win some sort of regular season award, or at least be eligible? Sorry if the screen's shaking. My knees up against my little desk stand. But anyway, and then same thing with Paul George. You need Paul George healthy a full season, and they have to develop that chemistry. I think momentum and morale, as well as team chemistry, play huge factors into the success of a team throughout the course of a season. And as you build wins and success throughout the season, you build momentum. So there's a lot of stuff that they have to work out, but I suspect the 76ers will be back next season, and I think they'll at least give it one more run, one more go before management kind of does what management usually does, which is just break stuff apart. So we'll see what they look like in the future. Another one to point out here too, the Miami Heat. I actually expected them to be a little higher. I kind of forget where they were earlier in the season. I think they were somewhere around 5-6 spot or something like that. But that was also the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler, and so I really felt like Jimmy Butler is the X factor. I get that his regular season performance is a little bit lackluster, the way Jimmy Butler plays, but I firmly believe that this is one player, if anybody, that has a whole nother gear when it comes to playoff time. I I totally have faith in Jimmy Butler's ability to kind of turn up his level of play in the playoffs. Um, and I could speak to some of that as to why that is. I think it has to do with him mentally as a player, and how he's motivated and driven by his, by his mental. And I just think he's just one of those players that, like, you get the best out of him when there's something at stake, and when it's playoff time. Every game and every series, it's everything. Every game is at stake, whether you progress and advance. And he's just one of those, like, has a never say die kind of attitude about him and stuff. So and I think he plays with a chip on his shoulder, but like with a bit of, like, almost like anger or aggression, and that's what brings the best out of him. He just can't will his energy to do that throughout the entire year, because the season is super long. I mean, they really refer to it as like a marathon, and he's not a marathon player. He's a sprinter. When you get into that playoffs, he turns on the aggressive Jimmy, and then that's when I think he plays his best basketball. But anyway, so my predictions based on the Heat were a lot of it was based on Jimmy Butler, and due to trades that have switched things around for the teams, and where I think they'll play out when it comes to the playoffs, that has changed a little bit. So the Heat is one of those. So let's start with the play-in. Starting with the 7-8 spot, they have to play each other to determine who maintains the 7th spot. And first of all, if you've seen my previous videos where I talk about the Hawks and Trae Young, I believe Trae Young and the Hawks are a team that play up to certain teams' level of competition or star status. And I don't think that they're a team that does well against grit and grind style of teams, or teams that don't have a lot of star power. For whatever reason, they just play their best basketball, especially Trae Young, when he's playing against certain teams. Why that is, I don't know. I think he's one of those players that gets an extra chip on his shoulder when he's this underdog versus this, dominant team that is supposed to win. Like, they're the superstars, they're the mega franchise, from a big market, and they should beat the little Hawks, and for whatever reason, Trae Young, he just walks in with this extra confidence, like David trying to slay Goliath. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at Trae Young. And when there's no Goliath to slay, Trae Young is good, but he just doesn't bring his best game. And I think his teammates feed off of his energy as a leader for that team. So the Magic is just not one of those upper echelon teams. So, and they're a bit more of a grit and grind kind of team. So I think the Magic beat out the Hawks and maintain the 7th spot. The Bulls and the Heat have to play each other. Man, this is kind of an interesting one. If you look at, oh man, oh yeah, okay, yeah. See this one here shows that the Miami Heat won their last game. It looks like the Bulls lost one. I'm not sure. It shows their division record, but it doesn't show their last 10 games. I'm going to see if I can pull it up on my phone real quick. Yes, so on my phone. Okay, so the Bulls and the Heat are both 7-3 in their last 10. So they both have equal momentum. Personally, I've seen the Bulls pull out some big wins kind of late in the season, and I just think the Bulls have a little more momentum behind them currently than the Heat do. But the Heat have a strong team. I think they're a better constructed team. In a 7 game series, I would definitely pick the Heat over the Bulls. But in a one-off game, I think the Bulls can pull off the win versus the Miami Heat. It's really a toss-up between those two teams, but since I have to make a prediction, I'm gonna side with the Bulls just because of their recent momentum going into this postseason, and just the fact that it's a single game elimination. So I think the Bulls can get it done and beat the Miami Heat, but I won't be surprised if it goes the other way. So, man, but this is where it's gonna get tough prediction wise. I think, man, no, I gotta stick with this. I'm gonna go with the Bulls beating the Heat. I think if okay, so then after the 7-8 seed play each other and the 9-10 seed play each other, the winner of the 9-10 plays the loser of the 7-8. So that would mean the Bulls would play the Hawks. I'm just gonna bank on the Hawks winning. This is kind of a tough one to predict. I kind of think if it was the Miami Heat, I don't know. Maybe the Hawks would still win. I don't know. It's a tough one to predict. They're all like pretty, in my opinion, pretty closely ranked teams, and a lot of times like matchup makes the biggest difference maker in who wins. Sometimes like certain teams just have an advantage in a matchup, and yeah, and sometimes that can make things more difficult. But yeah, I'm gonna side with the Hawks winning. Because I was gonna say I think if the Heat were facing the Hawks, then maybe the Heat will win. But I think the Hawks would actually, they would play up to the Heat if they were playing the Heat. And if you're wondering, I think the Heat is, even though they've lost Jimmy Butler, I think that they're still a pretty solid team. And they, like I said, they've dealt with some chemistry issues and some public kind of like distractions, I think, that have kind of taken away from like the chemistry of the team as well. But maybe the Heat right now are not at their best, and maybe they'll come back next year a little bit stronger. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and side with the Hawks. I do want to look at their last 10 games too. Okay, so Hawks are 4-6 in their last 10, but I don't think that really matters either way. But yeah, so yeah, momentum is a thing, but I think the Hawks are gonna suffer from any kind of momentum type of issues. So, but yeah, I'm gonna side with the Hawks beating the Bulls. Okay, so that means going into the postseason, into the playoffs, after the play-in, I believe the standings stay as they are. So the 1 through the 8 seed, I don't think there's any flip-flopping or moving around really. And I don't think one of those 9 or 10 seeds are going to beat out a team to get in. So then that means you got the Cavaliers versus the Hawks. And I forget what I predicted before. Well, you know what? I don't think I had the Hawks playing the Cavaliers. But the Hawks is one of those teams where, like I said, I believe that they'll play up to their competition. So they play the Cavaliers. They're going to give the Cavaliers a run for their money. I don't think it's going to be a sweep at all. This is going to go at least 6 games. It could potentially go 7, but I'm going to side with 6. I think the Cavaliers just try to put the Hawks away and really put the pressure on them. Even though they're going to be in some tough back and forth games, the Hawks are going to really try to give it their all to try to upset the Cavaliers. But I think the Cavaliers have a little more just all around like team chemistry. They got better defense. They have more offensive weapons. They're just a more skilled and talented team all around. And I just don't think the Hawks, player for player, can match the Cavaliers as a team. And so I think the Cavaliers beat the Hawks, but I think it goes 6 games. I think the Hawks give a Herculean effort versus the Cavaliers. Anyway, so moving on, the 2 seed plays the 7 seed, so that'd be the Celtics versus the Magic. This I can almost see being a sweep, but the Celtics are gonna kind of coast a little bit and at least give up one game to the Magic. If they give up a second game and it goes 6 games, I don't think the series will feel close, nearly as close as the Hawks versus the Cavaliers will be. I think the Celtics kind of coast past the Magic and make it a relatively easy series. Yes, the Magic is a tough young team with a lot of potential. They started the season much higher in the standings and they kind of dropped down a bit. They did deal with some injury issues and some guys kind of in and out the lineup early on, but I just don't think, even though they'll play well, I don't think they nowhere near match the Celtics in skill. So I'm gonna say Celtics in 5 for that one. Then moving on, the Knicks versus the Pistons. Interesting. So if the Knicks and the Pistons end up playing each other going into the playoffs, that'll be a battle. That'll be a slugger because the Pistons are really, this is their first year, if I'm not mistaken, where they're in the playoffs. They have a pretty good standing and they've been doing relatively well all season long. They have above 500 win percentage, and the Pistons is a team that's gonna really look to give any team they face trouble. They're not going down without a fight at all. They're really a tough team. It feels like they've embraced the basically the motto of past Pistons teams, which is to hang their hat on defensive play, hustle play, grit and grind. They're gonna tough it out and again not go down without a fight. They're obviously led by Cade Cunningham, and Cade Cunningham is an impressively skilled player while being a pretty big point guard too. So I think all in all, the Pistons have a solid team, and they're gonna give the Knicks some trouble. I'm gonna predict to go 7 games, but I'm not gonna predict an upset. I'm gonna predict the Knicks pull off a very narrow seven game series. So it's kind of unfortunate because that's gonna really wear out the Knicks starting players, and they're probably not gonna be nearly as fresh going into the following series. But it is what it is. I think I think the Knicks have enough skill and talent as a player or as a team to grind out that win and edge out the Pistons. But I do think it goes 7 games. Next, you got the Pacers and the Bucks. Man, this is a really interesting one because I'm a huge Bucks fan, and really, I don't want to see the Bucks losing to anything less than like, hopefully like the conference finals type of team. But this might be where the buck stops here because the Pacers, they do have some momentum. I'm gonna look at what their last 10 game record is. So the Pacers are 8-2, whereas the Bucks are 6-4. The Bucks are actually holding on pretty well. They had a pretty impressive comeback win. I think last night they came back from being down 24. So the Bucks still have heart, and honestly, they still have Giannis. As long as Giannis is on the floor, the Bucks have a chance, man. The Bucks have a chance versus anybody, really. But the Pacers have really kind of picked up their game towards the end of the season. It's just like they started off slow, and then they've come on strong by the end of the season. Really playing sharp and coming together as a team heading into the playoffs. I think they're gonna be pretty tough. Man. I don't want to bet against the Bucks, but if I have to be somewhat objective here, the reason why I think the Pacers have a slight advantage is because they have home court advantage. Them being the fourth seed versus the Bucks being the 5th seed, The games are gonna start in Indiana. Bucks are kind of like they're not a team that gets off to a good start, and they're really shaky at coming back from behind. So the Bucks is one of those teams where they have to win game one. If the Bucks come out and lose game one, there's a very high probability that they lose the series. And being in Indiana to start the series, they could very well go up 2-0 going back to Milwaukee, which means the Bucks would have to win. They would have to win both games at home in Milwaukee to keep the series close. And if they're down 2-0, again, the Bucks is one of those teams where they're just kind of shaky, you know. And yeah, they might take one of the wins in Indiana. They might even take one of the wins in Milwaukee. But man, I've just been watching this team for several years now throughout the playoffs, and I've just seen a lot of inconsistency from the Bucks. Um, Man, and injuries have plagued the team as well, which kind of doesn't allow them to be at their maximum potential. But man, I hate to bet against the Bucks, but I think the Pacers win in 7 games. I think the Bucks they're gonna try their hardest, and they're gonna be a little bit of a matchup problem. But if as long as they can kind of contain Giannis, the rest of the team is not as reliable. And there's no Dame Lillard at the moment, due to his injury. If I'm not mistaken, let me look at something here. Bear with me. I probably could pause this while I'm looking this up, but yeah. And I don't know if there's any news as to whether or not Dame Lillard will be back by the playoffs. I have to do a little more research on that, but I suspect even if he does come back, he won't be 100% Dame Lillard. I think there'll be a little bit in the back of his mind this whole blood clot situation, and his rhythm won't be there 100% due to not playing this last stretch going into the playoffs. So yeah, he might be refreshed to some extent by being able to rest, but I don't know if he's in tip top shape. I don't know if when you have a blood clot and you're on blood thinners, if you're able to really exert yourself and exercise. You may not be able to. So he might be a little out of shape type of thing. So whether Dame Lillard is in or out the lineup, I just don't think he'll be 100%. And so yeah, I don't know if the Bucks have enough to edge out the win. And again, if the Bucks were the 4 seed and the Pacers were the 5th seed, I would give it to the Bucks in 7 games out of bias, if nothing else. But because the Pacers are in the 4th seed, they do have momentum going into the playoffs. They've been playing really well, during this last stretch since All-Star break. I'm giving it to the Pacers in 7 games. I'm gonna at least give my Bucks a 7 game series, but I think the Pacers edge it out because they would play Game 7 in Indiana, and that home crowd advantage I think will kind of work against the Bucks there. But all right, so moving on, we got the Cavaliers, 1 seed. They would end up facing off the Pacers. Um, I think the Cavaliers make relatively light work of the Pacers. Don't get me wrong, the Pacers are gonna make it tough. They're not gonna go down without a fight. But I think the Cavaliers is just more talented than the Pacers, and I just think it goes 6 games. I think overall talent and Cavaliers are playing very well team basketball. I mean, their record is a reflection of how they've been all season. They're really, really excellent. The only team that really rivals them, really, truly, is the Celtics. The Knicks and the Pacers, some of these other Eastern teams, they're gonna play tough, but tough is only gonna get you so far. I believe skill will trump everything else, and will edge out the win in the end. So I'm gonna say Cavaliers in 6 games, and same with the Celtics versus the Knicks. It's a similar matchup. You got a tough grit and grind team. A little bit of skill though. I do like Karl Anthony Towns. I like Brunson, but I don't think they have enough to dethrone the Celtics. The Celtics are on top right now, and it's really between the Cavaliers and the Celtics in the East as to who's gonna come out on top. I don't predict any upsets, which is kind of crazy. It's an easy way to predict a video, so to speak, but I truly believe this is how it's gonna play out. So yeah, Celtics. I'm gonna say they go 6 games as well. I don't think they just easily coast to a win. They will have to apply some pressure to beat the Knicks, but I do think their skill, supersedes the Knicks, toughness basically. So that would leave the conference finals between the Cavaliers and the Celtics. And similar to my previous prediction video, I predicted that the Celtics will go to the finals. I'm gonna say the same thing with the Cavaliers versus the Celtics in this updated playoff prediction. Regardless of what else happens in the Eastern standings, it's between the Cavaliers and the Celtics. It's between those two teams, and I think the Celtics have enough to edge out the win. Forget what the regular season standing says. I mean, they're really close in record. I mean, you got 63 wins versus 59. That's not a huge win difference. And I know they faced off against each other during the season. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're pretty even in their matchup. I should already have looked this up. But regardless of what the regular season, whether one team won all four or it was 3-1, because I don't think that matters. From what I've seen in the matchups, there was always a key player missing at least out of a couple of the games where they matched each other for sure. And so and I just don't think that they're going to. I just don't think that they're gonna really. I just don't think that the regular season matchup is gonna play a factor into the playoffs, because the playoffs just kind of plays out differently. It's a whole different ball game. Every team and every player is playing their very best basketball. There's no holding back. There's no, we're gonna concede this game or something like that. There's none of that. Every game counts. Every game will be played at their best. And at their best, I just think the Celtics is a slightly better team than the Cavaliers. Cavaliers have been playing great this season. They are a great team. They've got a really good combination of both offense and defense. But I do think the Celtics, like I said, they're just that little bit better. And so it could go 6 or 7 games. Man, that's the tough question. Does it go 6 games or does it go 7 games? I'm gonna go 6. I'm gonna go 6 because I think early on one team is gonna feel the difference in the matchup between the other team, and I think the more dominant team is gonna impose their will and cause the other team to kind of concede and let off the gas. And I don't think they're gonna fight to a 7 game series. And I don't think this. I think it's gonna start off. Game 1 is gonna be super intense. Is gonna be a super intense battle. But I think that the team that ultimately breaks, and I know the Cavaliers will have home court advantage. Maybe they take game 1. Who knows? Yikes. Okay, I'm not gonna be surprised if it goes 7 games, but I still believe. If the Celtics steal 1 game in Cleveland in the first 2, and then they go back to Boston and win 2 more, it's going 6 games. I don't think the Cavaliers. I don't think the Cavaliers push it to 7 games. I think they more or less will kind of concede when the Celtics beat them, and I do believe the Celtics are going to beat them. So let's move on to the West. The East, like I said, Celtics are coming out the East. The West is a little more tricky because you do have a much more, I don't know how to say this, but like balanced, talent from top to bottom in the West, where I mean it's a lot of teams. Not so much the play-in teams, but I'd say all the way down to the eighth seed that are still strong teams. They're just in the West where the West is tough, really tough. So let's start with the play-in. The Grizzlies versus the Timberwolves. I think similarly here in the West, I'm not predicting any upsets. Well, at least in the play-in. Let me think a little further past that. But um, so yeah, so the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves will play for the seventh spot. That's actually, I believe, it could be a coin toss. Um, I think they're both two pretty evenly matched teams with a relatively younger roster. Good offensively, and then I think that they hustle on defense. I just don't know. I think the Timberwolves might have taken a step back defensively now that they have Julius Randle instead of Karl Anthony Towns playing the four man. Man, I think that I still think that that was a bad move by the Timberwolves to let go of Karl Anthony Towns. I don't care what kind of clash was going on. They should have worked that out and kept him on the team, man, because I think they downgraded going with Julius Randle, and he's a solid player, just not. He's not gonna be a huge difference maker in a team. And a team really progressing and winning a lot through the playoffs. And really, I think man, I think he's good. I think he's just an average player at the four spot as a power forward. So I don't know, but so the Timberwolves, I think they could beat out the Grizzlies, but I'm just not gonna predict the upset there. So I'm gonna say the Grizzlies stay in the seventh spot. The Kings and the Mavericks play each other. Ah man, that's a tough one too. I'm gonna side with the golly man. If Kyrie was still with the Mavericks, I think Kyrie definitely pushes them past the Kings. With no Kyrie, I know the Mavericks are gonna play tough, and who knows, they could win in a single game elimination. But I do think the Kings is like a little better than them, just because I think they have more of a fully cohesive team, and the Mavericks have just been what's the word? They've just been in disarray ever since they got rid of Luka. That to me, even though I get that Anthony Davis might be a better fit with that roster as a whole, um, Luka's just such a good player that it doesn't matter. Like, he's just a generational talent. I get Anthony Davis is really talented as well. Man, and he's a solid big man that gets to play the four like he wanted to. I just would have a totally different outlook on this team if Kyrie didn't get injured, and if Anthony Davis was didn't get injured right away as soon as he gets to the Mavericks. Like, I think, man, this team, if they were healthy since the trade, and they worked their way through to the playoffs, they might be higher in the standings right now. Honestly, they might not be in this play in situation. So yeah, it's just hard to bet on a team that is not fully healthy, and so I'm gonna go with the Kings over the Mavericks in that matchup. So Kings win, meaning the Kings would have to play the Timberwolves, and that's an interesting one too. But I do think the Timberwolves beat out the Kings. I just think that they have a little more over the Kings in terms of like talent and skill as a team, but also chemistry. I think that they're probably better, and I think the Timberwolves have a little more will to win than the Kings right now. So again, no upset, nobody getting booted out the playoffs. I think the Grizzlies keep their 7th spot. I think the Timberwolves beat out the Kings and keep their 8th spot. So going into the playoffs, we got the 1 seed versus the 8 seed, which means it'll be Thunder versus Timberwolves. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close. The Timberwolves, had they kept the momentum of last season and kept the team without breaking that chemistry, this might be a different story. This might be a very, very close matchup, even if the Timberwolves happen to be in the 8th spot. But I just think them having issues throughout this season, and they might be stronger and better next season. But and I like Naz Reid as a player. Obviously, Anthony Edwards is amazing. But yeah, versus the Thunder they're too cohesive of a team, and they're riding the back of potentially the MVP of this season, which is Shea. So yeah, I think the Thunder get it done. They edge out the Timberwolves. I think it'll be a tough series. I think it should go back and forth a little bit, but I'm gonna say Thunder in like 6 games. And I don't think it'll be a close 6. I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun games, a fun matchup. But I think the Thunder can pretty easily get by the Timberwolves without sweating too much. Next, you got the Rockets versus the Grizzlies. This is another like young team versus young team kind of matchup, and the Grizzlies are a lot better than what their current standing shows. The reason why I think the Grizzlies are going to get knocked off by the Rockets, not only because I think the Rockets are a better team, but I think there's a lot of internal turmoil with that franchise right now. With Ja Morant, with the coach, I think they just let go of their head coach and the coaching staff. That is not a good look going into the playoffs. I mean, how do you get rid of your head coach right before the playoffs? Not like mid-season, not after the playoffs, right before the playoffs. To me, that does not bode well. I don't know who they can get last minute that will be anywhere near effective at leading this Grizzly squad. And so I just think they're not gonna be good. They're not going to be as good as they could be going into the playoffs. I do think Jaren Jackson was probably held back a little bit. But I just think this franchise and this organization, I get this weird feeling they're not trying to win. They're just not trying to win. And I don't think anyone's going to do the Grizzlies any kind of favors to help them succeed. I do think that they will put up a Herculean effort. And I think Ja Morant will have some electrifying games. I think Jaren Jackson will do his thing. But and I do think that they'll pose some matchup problems with the Rockets, but I think the Rockets are a little more cohesive of a team, and their record is a reflection of how the Rockets are a much more solid, cohesive team right now. And I think they beat the Grizzlies. I think this one goes 6 games, but it'll look like a much closer 6 than the Timberwolves versus the Thunder. Okay, so moving on, we got the Lakers versus the Warriors. That is an interesting matchup. I cannot wait to see this whole playoffs series play out. I'm really excited. I think this is gonna be a fun playoff postseason this year. The Lakers versus the Warriors is a fun matchup. Fun matchup. You got LeBron and you got Curry, like the last of an era, so to speak, facing off against each other in the playoffs for what may be the last time that we see them play. So it'll be a really fun and exciting back and forth series. I do think it has the potential to go 7 games, but I think Luka joining the Lakers is the X factor. I think it's the big deciding factor. Yeah, Anthony Davis is a very talented and dynamic big man, but most of what Anthony Davis gives the team, the Lakers, especially in the fourth quarter, is what any run of the mill big man can pretty much give you. Defense, rim protection, rebounding. He'll put up points at the rim. If he gets the ball, he's open around the rim. And yes, I think Anthony Davis is a little bit better, but the Luka to the Lakers gives the Lakers an entirely different dynamic. Entirely different dynamic. This team with Luka is an entirely different team with just that one player, switching teams. So I think the Lakers get past the Warriors. It'll be a battle though, man. Just for the fun of it, I say it goes 7 games. I would be happy if it goes 7 games, honestly. But I'm gonna go Lakers in 7, and yes, that is a little biased because I'm hoping the Lakers do win, but I think they will get the job done. I just think the Warriors aren't going down without a fight, and it could be an epic 7 game series, which would be great for everybody. It's a win-win for everybody. Okay, lastly, we got the Clippers and the Nuggets. This is an interesting one. The Nuggets dropped a little bit, and I think the Nuggets also let go of their head coach like just recently. I was gonna look it up for a second, but I don't want to pause the video. Man, yikes! I gotta look up one thing. Hold on. Oh man, let's see. Gotta look up one thing. Okay, Western Conference. So, like I expected. So the Clippers are 8-2 in their last 10 games. The Nuggets are 3-7, which is horrible. That means the Clippers have really good momentum, and I think losing their head coach like that right before going into the playoffs is not a good sign. I think the Nuggets too are a little more, I don't know, like they're still a really good team. A lot of their core is intact from the season they won the championship. But I just think that the Nuggets are a little more predictable, and teams are able to defend and guard the Nuggets a little better than previous seasons. And so I don't know. I just think that the Nuggets are gonna play great basketball, but I think something's off with them right now, and I don't think they get past the Clippers. And I wouldn't have said this at any previous point. I would have said the Nuggets were probably one of those teams where, unless they were against like the Lakers, I probably would have picked the Nuggets to win against anybody. But and again, the Lakers was just off a bias because I think the Nuggets might have the Lakers number, honestly. But I just, like I said, I think something's off with the Nuggets, and Clippers have the home court advantage as well, so that a similar situation is with like the Pacers and the Bucks. That 4-5 matchup could go either way, but home court advantage I think could be that extra deciding factor in favor of one team. So I'm gonna go Clippers in seven. I'm gonna go Clippers in seven. I think it's a tough series, but again, I don't predict any upsets. Again, I some of the ones I wouldn't be surprised for. I wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets do win, if they just turn it on in the playoffs, and whatever was going on at the tail end of the season doesn't matter. Jokic does him. He leads that team, and the rest of the team rally behind him. I could see the Nuggets still winning. I could also see the Warriors getting past the Lakers. I wouldn't bet against the Warriors if they were matched up with just about anybody else. Um, in the standings, but versus the Lakers, I'm just gonna pick bias with that one. I'm rooting for LeBron and Luka and the Lakers as a whole. Like, um, I think if LeBron even makes it to the finals, it does so much for his legacy. I think, to kind of like, at least make it to the finals one more time. Like, he's such an awesome player. I think he's still kind of like, right there with trying to edge out Jordan for like the greatest of all time. And this is one of those, years in these playoffs that could really put him over the top. So I think he's going to be giving his all. Both from basketball IQ point. I don't think anything else matters to him. Right now going into these playoffs, I think he's going to be locked in and focused with everything he's got. And Luka is one of those guys that matches LeBron's energy and to some extent style of play a little bit. So anyway, so I'm gonna side with the Clippers over the Nuggets. I just think there's a little trouble in paradise over there in Denver. So I'm gonna side with the Clippers. Okay, so the next round would be the Clippers versus the Thunder. This is an interesting one. This is an interesting one. Do I think the Clippers can upset the Thunder? I'm predicting the Lakers upset the Rockets because in my previous prediction video, I predicted the Lakers go to the finals. I want to do it. I want to still predict that. The Rockets are going to be tough. The Rockets have proved to be even better and better and better than what I initially thought early on or mid-season. From mid-season till now, they've only increased in my mind in how solid of a team the Rockets are. I almost even like the Rockets better than the Thunder, but the Thunder just got, I don't know, like they're just a little better. They're just a little better overall. They're a little differently constructed team in how they run offense and whatnot, but I do think the Thunder are just that little bit better, but the Rockets are not far behind them. They're both young teams, and what it comes down to in these matchups is will youth outplay experience and veteran leadership. And that's one of those ones where it's hard to bet against veteran experience until youth proves that it's their time and they're the more dominant team. And so the Thunder, despite their regular season record, they're one of those teams where going into the playoffs, I do think their biggest challenge will be against the more veteran teams. So whereas like the Thunder, I think they pretty easily beat the Timberwolves because they're led by a little bit of a younger core. Versus the Clippers, I think it'll be a closer series. I think the Clippers are they're again their veteran leadership and experience might just give them a little bit of an edge or an advantage. That's gonna be a tough fought series. I'm gonna predict to go 7 games, but in the case of the Thunder and the Clippers, I'm not gonna predict the upset. I'm gonna predict that it goes 7 games. Thunder win. Thunder will pull off the win. I think that they will figure it out in the playoffs and they will get it done. I think the Thunder beat out the Clippers. Rockets versus the Lakers. I think that's gonna be a different story. I think it'll be a tough 6 games, but I'm giving the Lakers a 6. Lakers beat out the Rockets, which will leave the Lakers versus the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. And again, I'm siding with the Lakers. I don't care. I'm throwing logic out the window at this point. Yeah, I think Thunder are gonna be tough. They're gonna be riding a bit of the momentum from beating out the Timberwolves, for beating out the Clippers, and I do think it'll go a tough 7 game series. They might be a little worn out for going 7 games, but I do think their youth is going to give them the energy to recover and still have the energy to play their hardest versus the Lakers. But I just have to side with the Lakers. Again, this is probably more so biased than this being an accurate assessment. But I really think the Lakers, they have a combination of veteran leadership with LeBron. There's no better vet that has played countless playoff series throughout his career, who's practically the mind of a super coach. In addition to JJ Redick, which I was thinking about this earlier today. I think as much as different players have this like playoff mode where they're like playoff so and so, like playoff Jimmy Butler, playoff whatever player it is, they have just another gear that they tap into when it comes into the playoffs. I think JJ Redick's coaching he'll really it'll really stand out in the playoffs, where he just takes it to another level. I believe a playoff series, not a one-off game, and then you go play a whole nother team in a one-off game. You play a whole nother team in a one-off game. The regular season is one thing; it's a grind. The playoffs is you're locked in and focused, one team versus another team, and it's a back and forth battle, a chess match. And I do think that JJ Redick will be able to lock in on each series and game plan and strategize in each series, game by game, making adjustments. Hopefully, he's a good in-game adjustment player, but he has LeBron by his side and Luka anyway. But I think JJ will do his due diligence to prep, game by game and series by series, to game plan the best strategy to beat whatever team they're facing. So I think the Thunder are going to be so tough, so tough to match up against. And really, like, who's guarding Shea, who's guarding SGA? I don't know for the Lakers, but I do think the Lakers have enough to outmatch the Thunder. I'm just gonna say it goes 7 games. It's hard to predict like a sweep or anything, or even 5 games. I feel like a lot of these series on both sides of the playoffs, East and West. I think they go. There's going to be a lot of 6 game series, some 7 game series. I don't know if there'll be a single sweep in the playoffs. From what I'm feeling, I think every team is capable of getting at least one win in each matchup, each round of the playoffs. So I predict no sweeps, and I think there'll be some really good back and forth series. So I think the Lakers really they're gonna have a tough matchup, but I do think the Lakers can get past the Thunder and win in 7 games, which leaves Boston versus LA. And originally I did predict Boston winning the finals, and man, it is incredibly hard to bet against them. It's incredibly hard to bet against the Celtics. But I just get this weird feeling. I get this weird feeling LeBron might actually win. So in my original prediction video, I predicted that it'll be it'll be the Celtics and the Lakers in the finals, but I predicted the Celtics will win. I'm predicting the Lakers win. I don't know why, but I think this is just like written in history already. For LeBron to win another championship and then retire. It would like, I don't know if you could write a better script for LeBron's career and for the NBA to conclude, the legacy of this all-time great player and the face of the NBA for at least a decade plus. It feels like it's a story that some script writers for the NBA have written, like destined for LeBron to win the championship. And I know it sounds crazy, but I think the Lakers are the 2025 NBA champions. And it's hard to imagine it going anything less than 7 games. Anything less than 7 games. Obviously, there's no such thing as more than 7 games, but it could go 6 games, right? But I think it goes 7. I think it goes 7. That's it for the video. I hope I didn't drag this out too long and make it a too long-winded of a video. We're almost at an hour, so hope you guys enjoy watching this. I'm gonna go ahead and cut out for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Peace.